Hi, and welcome back to the Void Century podcast. I'm Adam here with Ed, and today we're here to record episode 29 entitled Our Time Skip. We have taken a small hiatus, maybe about a year or two, on the Void Century podcast, but recently we found some passion again. We're back, and we want to pick up where we left off. Ed, anything from you?
Yeah, I'm just excited to get back into things. So we're gonna pick off and kind of start. We we were in Wano, and now let's just talk about I guess the Reverie starting off.
Yeah,
So yeah, go ahead.
lots of things have happened since we've last recorded. We did have the Reverie flashback in Wano, as Ed alluded to. We're basically going to touch on some of the main points. Feel free to go off on any tangents if you want, Ed. One of the main points in the Reverie was Shirahoshi almost got captured by St. Charlos to be saved by, I believe it was Don Quixote Homing, who was then later executed. Time and time again, only reinforcing how despicable the world nobles actually are.
Yeah, we
Shir-
also get a section where asks about Nefertiti Lily, which is his ancestor. It's kind of interesting that he doesn't know about like what happened with her as well. I mean, he's her family, so a lot of unknowns from Cobra's family.
just jumping off a little bit, Nefertiti Lily was one of the members of the original 12 families, I believe, who started the world government. Most notably, the only one who abdicated their position within the world government and decided not to live in Marijois and to live among the commoners in Alabasta, their home kingdom. The reason why Cobra knows this is because he has Lily's journal. Um,
Uh,
which is a document that is not supposed to exist after the Void Century. Cobra also goes on to state that there was another noble written about in the journal that was a member of the original 12 families as well and alluded to Eam. And I believe we actually get Emu's surname. I don't know it off the top of my head right now. Let me see if I can't find it. But yes, I think it was name dropped. Emu's real name. And for his,
Verona, that's his family name.
yes, and
Verona.
for Cobra's insolence, he was executed by Emu. And
Yeah, so we kind of see like these like shadowy arrows kind of attack, right? And that will actually we'll kind of figure out what happens in our next episode, what those shadow arrows might have been.
but to note, so Cobra actually sees Emu sit on the empty throne again, which is a huge deal because the world government is supposed to be federated and not answer to one singular ruler or monarch, which we know Emu is. Furthermore, the five elder stars, the Gorosei themselves, also transform into their true forms, which are,
Yeah, but we only kind of get like shadowy visions of it. We don't actually like see them like in their full glory.
yes, Emu transforms as well. We also see like a shadowy demon monster, which is,
And I believe Sabo was present in that room and he sees all this, right?
yes, Sabo witnesses all this. He actually attacks the world government, the Gorosei and Emu. However, he is able to escape, but in doing so, Vivi has been captured, and according to everybody else in the world, Sabo is the reason for all this destruction at the Reverie itself. And lasting
Yeah, so
effects. Oh,
he's
I'm sorry.
basically the scapegoat of what's going on with the Nefertiti family. So that family kind of got demolished during the Reverie. So we have Cobra dying, getting murdered. We have Vivi, his heir, getting kidnapped. So like what's going on with Alabasta, however you say it now.
Alabasta?
We don't we don't know what's really going to be happening with that kingdom if maybe Emu has other plans and wants to prop up another fake ruler for that country.
2 points, though. A lasting effect in Marijuana now is all of the crops and the food supply has basically been wiped out, so the nobles are starving. But in talking about kingdoms and being up in the air, so to speak, during the Reverie flashback, we do witness a kingdom actually getting wiped off the map the Lelucia Kingdom. We do see that it was taken out by a mysterious flying weapon that had a multitude of laser beams, pillars of light.
And it was like giant, like the radius of these beams were like humongous. And
Independence Day.
also, yeah, like independent, probably bigger, honestly, because it was like basically the size of like the island, or like almost close to the size of the island. So it was like very big. And also afterwards, I think that we get like a narrator note that says the sea levels of the water rise shortly after this happened. So lots of like interesting things going around with what we can only perceive to be the ancient weapon Uranus, potentially.
Yes, I don't know if it's of note, but there were 15 beams of holy light. So I don't know if that correlates necessarily to Doflamingo's God thread or the original families of the world government. But you
Were
know,
there 13 families?
I don't recall, but Oda always loves to put these little number Easter eggs in the series, so I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah, true. And then next up in the Reverie, we actually get this hooded figure that looks like Shanks, basically. And he comes into the Reverie and he informs them to watch out for a certain pirate. He doesn't really say who it is, at least for us to see as a reader, but yeah, we get this hooded figure, and it's just kind of weird because why would Shanks be allowed in the world government Reverie? Like, he's one of the four emperors. So it just doesn't make sense to see him there. So there's kind of like a mystery. And why would he be giving them any sort of warnings to help them out?
For clarification, this did happen before Cobra got executed, but it is very interesting. Shanks does seem like the most level-headed of all of the Yonko. He also does have a very iffy relationship, it seems, with the world government. But why the Gorosei would ever give him an audience is very strange. However, there's a lot of questions still left to be answered with the Reverie. But
Yeah,
continue.
so yeah,
Go on.
continuing on. So now we have Lucia that blew up. That's actually also getting blamed on Sabo somehow, but that's what they're saying. And we kind of have like hints of this thing called the Mother Flame. And what is it exactly? And is it potentially something that might power an ancient weapon? Perhaps what we believe Uranus is that destroyed Lulusia? And then also using Mother Flame. I mean, we were told that the sea level rose, so potentially is that linked? Does using this flame cause the water levels to rise in the planet? So that's kind of like the questions that we have with that.
Yes, those are the main points I had for the Reverie. If you'd like to move forward, we can start discussing what happened with the end of Wano. Of course, Big Mom and Kaido were defeated. Oda kind of wrote himself into a corner a little bit in Wano, as we discussed thoroughly. Oda didn't know how Luffy was possibly going to overcome the strongest beast, seemingly the strongest Yonko in the world, in Kaido. Luffy did manage, after being killed and seemingly defeated for the third time, Luffy managed to awaken his devil fruit. His heart started up with this weird ancient rhythm to the drums of liberation, and his hair went all white, and obviously everybody knows Luffy went gear fifth, embodying the spirit of Joy Boy, or Nika, the freest man.
Yeah, and we get revealed that his fruit was actually not the Gomu Gomu no Mi, but it's actually a mythical Zoan, human fruit, mythical Zoan god type, Nika, something like that. So yeah, it's like the embodiment of the god Nika, who is like an ancient god that liberated the slaves a long time ago in One Piece's history. Yeah, so Gear 5, he turns into like this white-haired figure. He still looks like Luffy, but he's always got like a giant smile and he's like laughing loudly. It seems like everywhere around him, it's kind of like a Looney Tunes cartoon. So that rubber hose style, classic early cartoons. So his arms are very rubbery and skinny, just like those like old Looney Tune cartoons. And I think that just things around him start to kind of transform into like being part of a cartoon. So like Kaido, he would like grab and then punch him and stuff. And it was like Kaido was the big bad wolf in a cartoon series, and his like neck is getting yanked, and it's just like becoming elastic as well. So yeah, I think that that kind of confirms that this was his fruit's awakening and true power.
Yes, further reinforcing in the series, just standard devil fruit powers affect you, the user, whereas awakened fruits affect your environment. I am a huge fan of original Looney Tunes. I love classic cartoon tropes. Shout out to Kaido getting used as a jump rope.
Yeah,
Classic, absolutely classic. And I think didn't Luffy also hit him with a giant baseball bat too? Great.
I think something like that. Yeah, there were just like a lot of those classic cartoon tropes that we saw, and it's kind of nice to see Oda being influenced by Western animation as well. So like you and I are both American, so it's just kind of cool to see how like we can enjoy some Eastern cartoon series, and that's also being influenced by the West as well. So lots of like cool things to think about with how Luffy is transformed.
Yeah, it was a really nice homage. It's great to see Oda pay respects to some of the greats. Okay, moving forward, Big Mom and Kaido got defeated. Of course, they are now swimming in a giant pool of lava. We have yet to be seen what's going on with Big Mom and Kaido. As
Do
far
you think
as
that they're dead?
I am very hesitant to say that they are dead. I think they are going to play a role in the story going forward. I would actually love to see a cover story series, kind of like a Big Mom and Kaido subterranean lazy river through magma kind of story.
I love that. Yeah. So I
Maybe.
think that I agree. I think that they're still alive. Usually when Oda kills somebody, like we know that they're dead. Whereas if he leaves it even slightly, like they might be alive and questioning it, then good chance that they're alive. So my guess is that they're alive just because it's Oda's style.
I think Enel is going to come back and play some role with them in some way.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so continuing with Wano, after Big Mom and Kaido get defeated, we learn that Pluton is housed under a castle. Which castle? I don't remember. Wano Kuni Castle or Onigashima Castle?
The main castle in Wano Kuni, Momo's
Okay,
grandfather, I forget his name right now, but Odin's dad shows Robin Pluton, actually, which gels with, I believe, that was also referenced in the poneglyph that she read in Alabasta, which basically told her that Pluton's housed under Wano.
cool.
The
Yeah,
original one.
so
Because if we remember, Frankie also burned the plans at the end of Water 7.
true. Yeah. So yeah, and then Momonosuke stays behind on Wano when Luffy and the Straw Hats decide to leave to go on their next adventure. Momo stays with Yamato, who says that she will help guide Momo. Oh, also Momo is now an adult. He got age fruited, I think, right?
Yes, I forget the name of the Kunoichi specifically, the old one.
Oh yeah, the
Kunoichi
ninja
that,
girl.
yeah,
Yeah.
that aged him. But yes, in the heat of battle, Momo asked to be aged so that he could pull his weight,
So
as
now he's
Odin
like an
would.
adult, but he's not. He still has a mind of a child, but he's in an adult body, kind of like Big, starring Tom Hanks.
Exactly. But he's making progress as we see in the cover story right now. Things are happening on Wano.
Oh, also with Momo, just to go back, he also, now his dragon form is an adult dragon form. So before we saw him and he was kind of like a baby dragon. Now his dragon form is like a pink version of Kaido's dragon form. And they did kind of have like a cool battle between Kaido and Momo. And Momo was holding his own surprisingly.
Oh, to be said for the final battle as well. Not to be overshadowed, but we do see Green Bull as well. Green Bull actually does make his appearance for the first time in Wano.
Oh yeah, Green Bull. Yeah, so he's the new admiral that took over for Aokiji, the ice guy.
Yeah, Aokiji.
Aokiji, sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
And Green Bull is what's his ability again?
He controls plants and trees, nature.
Oh yeah, so he's kind of like Nagato from Naruto. Is that no, not Nagato.
Hashirama Cell.
Hashirama. Yeah, he's like Hashirama, the older brother Hashirama. Yeah.
We always go back to We always go back
Well,
to
like
Naruto.
it's we got the Hashirama souls. Well, and then his son or his grandson or whatever also had the tree ability. Sorry, we're on a tangent.
Was his grandson also named Yamato as well?
I believe his grandson was named Yamato. Yeah.
Wow, full circle. All right. So yeah, we do you see Green Bull? He does threaten the island. I forget who actually stops Green Bull. I think it
I think it
was
was the blind admiral, right?
could be possible. I don't think he showed up, did he? Did he show up to Wano?
I remember seeing the blind admiral. I think that he showed up to Wano. Yeah, I think he was there with Green Bull. Oh,
No. Shanks intervened and used his
oh,
hockey.
Shanks. That's what it was. Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, Shanks is here. Never mind. Let's GTFO."
Got it. Okay. Wow. Just so
That's what
many
it
things that
was.
happened. Wow.
Yeah, it's hard to
Shout
keep
out
it
to
all straight.
Shanks for being a real one, comes from the reverie, ends up at Wano to save Luffy's butt. Yet again, Shanks is the real MVP.
Shanks is great. Yeah, yeah. So I think that that's kind of the end of Wano. So yeah, we also just learned that both Nika and Joy Boy were actual real beings in the universe. They're not just mythical legends, they're actual people. So that was kind of like the last confirmation. And yeah, let's move on to Egghead. You want to take it from here?
One point I do want to make is Nika is a confirmed god in One Piece. I think that's the first confirmed named god we have in One Piece. And
Maybe not, because we have the mythical Zoan god fruit that was Buddha.
ah, true. But Buddha exists in our world as well. As far as I know, Nika isn't in the pantheon of gods, at least
Sure,
in the
but
real world.
Buddha exists in One Piece, and it was the first named god. So
Okay, all right, I'll give you that.
yeah,
Plus,
yeah.
Buddhism definitely exists in One Piece because of all of Zoro's Samsara like spell or
Oh
skill.
yeah, true.
Okay, moving on to Egghead, we finally get to meet Dr. Vegapunk, who isn't quite as tall as we all thought he would be. He does have, I love his character design. He's got that big, stupid apple head, and his tongue is always hanging out. I love it. He's great.
Yeah,
Um,
he's based off of Einstein, so he looks just like Einstein basically, except his head is like elongated to be super tall, which he had an operation to basically cut it off most of it and put it into a computer with his devil fruit ability. So he had like the brain fruit. I forgot what it exactly is called.
I don't remember the specific name, but before we get too deep into Vegapunk, it should be noted that Vegapunk he was doing too much thinking for one man. He needed to be more efficient with his time, and so he transported his consciousness into multiple bodies that all talk and interact with Punk Records, which is the gigantic data system that he has on his island to house all of his knowledge and his thoughts and his information. Very cool. Good to know
Yes.
that Vegapunk is a nerd just like us.
Yeah, so actually he separated them to six satellites is what they're called. So we got I'm just gonna name them off for us real quick. So we have Shaka, which is kind of like the good part of his brain, Lilith, which is the evil part of his brain, Edison, which is the thinking part of his brain, Pythagoras, which is wisdom, Atlas, which is violence, and York, which is the green portion of his brain. And they're all kind of like are they robot bodies? I don't recall.
I think so, but I wouldn't put it past Vegapunk to be able to make clones. It's shown that he has cloning technology. He was also part of Mads. Another member of Mads was also Sanji's dad, a judge who was also very at the forefront of cloning technology in the One Piece
And
world.
Caesar was part of that group as well, right?
Yeah, except we don't talk about Caesar Clown. He's a bad man, Caesar Clown. Rip Bozo. Okay,
So
so
I think that what he did though is I think he split his brain into separate segments and put his brain into each of these satellites. I believe that's what he ended up doing.
that makes sense. But he's so smart he could do brain surgery on himself. I think it has something to do with his fruit, right? So I think
Yeah,
he'll probably
yeah,
compartmentalize his thinking and his knowledge and segment it into each of his satellites.
exactly. Yeah. So one of those satellites, Lilith, which is the evil part of his brain, ended up betraying him and reported him to the world government. And she wanted to have her own deal with the world government and kind of live as a celestial dragon. So she ends up betraying them, and Cyberpole Zero comes to Egghead Island.
I think we're getting a little ahead of ourselves here. First, why would Cypherpole or the world government want to get rid of Dr. Vegapunk, who's their most trusted scientist, who's like 100 years in the future? Vegapunk is altruistic and he only cares about knowledge and research and helping people. Vegapunk, he was on a quest for knowledge. He read the forbidden knowledge. He knows about the Void Century. He read all of the knowledge in the library of Ohara. Vegapunk, the smartest man, all of the One Piece knows what.
So now he's become a liability, and the world government has to eliminate him from their perspective, because anything related to the Void Century, of course, needs to be destroyed and hidden and censored.
Ooh, what does that say about us then? Okay.
We also have some relationships with Vegapunk and Dragon. So they were old friends, and there was a point in time where Dragon meets up with Vegapunk and he's like, "Hey, you're so smart. I'd really like you to join the Revolutionary Army and like help us out." And Adam, what did Vegapunk say?
Vegapunk basically told Dragon he couldn't afford him, told him to get his money up, come back when he had a couple more zeros in his bank account, unfortunately.
Yeah, so basically he's like, "I know that the world government is evil and sucks, but they have the amount of money that I require to do the research that I need to do to help better the country and the world." So he ends up siding with the world government, not to help them necessarily, but to help his own quest for knowledge.
Altruistically, I think Vegapunk wanted to create technology that would help greater mankind. That's why he created this little thing called the Mother Flame. The Mother Flame itself, completely benign, is an energy source, a limitless energy source that can power the world and, bring heat to kingdoms, can power machines, can really improve the lives of every citizen in the One Piece world. However, as we stated previously, the Mother Flame was stolen. A piece of the Mother Flame was stolen and corrupted and used in that terrible weapon it was used to activate that terrible weapon that destroyed the Lelousia Kingdom.
And most likely it was Lilith, the one who stole it and gave it to the world government.
She should be named Prometheus, though, huh?
Yeah. So now we're going back to Cyberpole. They're on Egghead to kill Vegapunk. We also learn that Stussy of the Cyberpole group, Queen of the Underworld, is actually a clone, and she's a clone of Miss Buckingham Stussy, or she's also known as Miss Buckin, a former Rocks pirate, the one that says that she's got Edward Newgate's son, Weevil, that old woman. So yeah, Stussy's actually a badass. I really like her.
I really love her character design too. I really enjoy like the 1920s flapper aesthetic. She's a great character. Even had the ability to run away at the end of Egghead, but decided to stay around and help her comrade Kaku avoid total destruction at the hands of her own handlers. Really makes her a really good character.
And you can also see that she does kind of treat Vegapunk as like a father type figure and loves him. So she seems like a genuinely good-hearted person.
Vegapunk's a great guy. I just think it's a little weird. It's like, hey, I know you're my friend. We're really close. You mind if I make a clone of you and like start ordering you around and sell you into the world government? Like,
I mean, knowing him though, I don't think that I think he probably gave Stussy the option to be a spy. I don't think he ordered her necessarily. He probably was like, "Hey, you're actually really good at these things and you're a clone from this badass woman. Like, you want to use your powers for good and kind of be a spy?" And she agreed to it, is most likely what I think happened. Oh yeah, and then we also see that Lucci is on the island as well, and he's got it out bad for Luffy. He never really forgave himself for losing to Luffy, and so he's got his eyes set on Luffy, but he ends up fighting Zoro instead, and I think he gets beat up pretty badly by Zoro, like pretty easily. I want to say that their fight actually gets interrupted, so like we don't actually see like a super clear victory on Zoro's behalf, but I think that like if they actually fought, it would have been like low difficulty effort for Zoro to actually beat him.
100%. Like Lucci was already beat arcs years over 10 years ago. Give it a rest. We're done. See ya.
Yeah.
I mean, Hatsuri is the real head of CP0.
True. Yeah. So next let's talk about Jewelry Bonnie. So we learned that Jewelry Bonnie is daughter of Kuma, and we get like a flashback to Kuma. So I don't know, maybe you want to talk about Kuma's history as having his buccaneer blood and all that stuff.
Sure. I just want to say, ever since he was introduced, I think in the Sabati archipelago, way back in the day, I loved Kuma's design. Something about his jacket and like the crosshair and the glasses and never knowing his true motivations. The
And
tyrant.
The cute bear ears. Like he has like that cute aesthetic too, even though he's like this big imposing guy.
Yeah, that's the thing I loved about Kuma. Like, I thought he was like a cool character, and he absolutely decimates the Straw Hats, only to find out he actually is the reason the whole time skip happened, protected the Going Merry at the time. Wow, Kuma really was working in the shadows to save the Straw Hats, and we finally kind of get to understand why. So, Kuma he was born into slavery because he has a rare blood type. Kuma is what's called a buccaneer. They are known for being really strong and really robust. However, because of the sins of their fathers, aka being allied with the ancient kingdom, they are forever subservient and slaves. Kuma was born into slavery. We see his relationship with his father, and his dad is like, hey son, don't be sad even though I'm crying and your mother's dead and you have chains around your neck and you're only a child. Be happy because there's a sun god named Nika and he's a really funny guy and he does this silly dance and he makes this silly song, and our belief in Nika is going to allow us to keep on going. And as his dad is saying this, we literally watch him get deleted.
Yeah, so like he also has kind of like that whole like drums of liberation, like dum to dum to dum, like whatever the beat is. So like that's kind of passed down from father to son, and later on we'll see that he also passes it down to Bonnie. But yeah, so after his father dies, and he's now an orphan, we see him kind of fighting with the revolutionaries. I believe that they come in to free the slaves in God Valley, and he meets up with who is it?
You're jumping.
Oh, am I too far? My bad.
Yeah. So basically, what happened is, so Kuma, as a slave, was taken to God Valley to basically be game in hunting sport for the celestial dragons. We see Saint Garling Figurland, who is a very high up in the Gods Knights. He's the leader of the Gods Knights. Very cool character design. Has this cool crescent moon thing going on. Fights with a big saber. Also looks like he could be the father of one, red-haired Shanks. Ba-bum. Garling is seen to be very charismatic, very stubborn kind of man. Also, points are given for each slave defeated on God Valley, and Garling basically sweeps them. And I believe it's said previously that Garling has a tendency to do this. So it is very much so implied, if not outright told, that Garling is probably the strongest fighter we know in the Gods Knights. But so they're competing for prizes, gold, glory, devil fruits.
Yeah.
I don't recall what the top prize was for this specific competition.
It was probably double fruits. Like what can be a bigger prize than double fruits? You know, like it's power.
It was, but I don't specifically know if they stated what fruit it was.
Yeah, I don't think that they state the fruit name at the time because, as we find out, we get the revolutionaries coming to save the slaves from getting killed by these god knights and these celestial dragons. And we actually meet up with Ivankov and Jenny, who are both revolutionaries, and they help Kuma escape. And part of that, though, was they actually somehow stole these devil fruits from the celestial dragons, and they decide, hey, our best way to escape is if we eat these devil fruits. Kuma, you want to join? They ask Kuma to join the revolutionaries and eat a fruit and help the escape and defeat the celestial dragons there. So that's what ends up happening. It does help that also I believe the Rocks pirates were there at the time, right? This is the infamous Gone Valley incident, right?
Yes, couple things. I think they meet up with the revolutionaries after God Valley. They escape God Valley, so they meet up with the revolutionaries after. We can go ahead and discuss that. So basically, Kuma, he uses his paw fruit to teleport them away. So we do get to see the Rocks pirates. We get to see everybody but Rocks himself. Unfortunately, we don't get a chance to see Silver Axe or Wang Ji, but they're coming in the future. We also get to see a younger Roger and a young Garp. But in doing so, let's get back to Kuma's backstory a little bit. They do get off the island, God Valley. They do escape using Kuma's teleport powers. They try to return to Kuma's hometown, and they basically become the caretakers of a local church. Everything is fine until there's friction with the local king. I forget specifically what it was, but Kuma takes him out and then becomes a target of the world government, in which Kuma then allies with the revolutionaries and becomes a commander of the revolutionaries, as well as Ginny. I think Ginny was the East commander of the revolutionaries. Yeah. And yeah, so they are living their life running around with the revolutionaries. They finally decide to settle down, and Ginny gets captured by
Ginny and Kuma have like a romance together, and it's really sweet. And and then Ginny gets captured by the world government, and she gets married off to some unnamed celestial dragon, and she gets pregnant. She also gets tested on by the Gorosei Saturn. So yeah, he's the one that he's one of the Gorosei. He's the Gorosei of science and defense, and so he's doing like experimentation. Since she's just a normal peasant, she's not a celestial dragon. She can just be a good test subject for him to test on. She ends up getting a disease called sapphire scales, which is very deadly and very contagious. So because of this, they just free her because they're like, we don't want you on our island. We don't want you to get everyone else sick. So yeah, we want you to go. But unbeknownst to everyone, she was pregnant at the time. So she's actually Jewelry Bonnie's mother, and she gives birth to Jewelry Bonnie eventually when she's with Kuma.
The juxtaposition, it just gives me chills. It makes me so sad. Going from the panel of them finally basically freeing themselves in the church and basically exclaiming how happy they were after eating themselves full of all the food they were never allowed to have before, to the juxtaposition of Ginny calling Kuma with her last breath to tell him she loves him and she's going to die, only for Kuma to teleport there as fast as he can, only to find out his wife is dead, but leaving behind a baby, and then resigning himself to dedicate his life to raising this baby. But this baby being named Jewelry Bonnie on account of the sapphire scales she carries on her face. The disease that took her mother is also inherited by the daughter. Kuma dedicates his life to trying to save his daughter from this disease by whatever means necessary, including consulting Vegapunk.
Yeah, so basically... Oh, go ahead. Okay, so yeah, basically, like, he makes a deal with Vegapunk to become a pacifist, and Vegapunk was like, I need more from you, but I have, like, an actual cure now. I just developed it, but, like, you basically have to just be mine. And you have to, like, give over your entire consciousness to me. And he agrees for the sake of Bonnie. And all this time, while he's being tested on and kind of transformed into a pacifista, he's writing these letters to Bonnie that she doesn't receive until this point. She finally receives the letters, but she thinks that, Kuma kind of forgot about her, and she's like, why hasn't he like sent me any notice? So he has been writing these letters the entire time. Finally, he loses his humanity, and then Vegapunk gives her the cure, or sends her the cure, and she gets cured. And yeah, that's kind of the tragic story.
To be just a couple points, Vegapunk doesn't decide to make this deal with Kuma. Vegapunk, being a piece of the world government, basically answers to the Gorosei. I believe it was Saturn who concocted the deal and said, okay,
True.
you give me your body as a buccaneer and, in essence, your consciousness, and I will save your daughter. And the big twist is that Saturn was the one that experimented on and poisoned his mother in the first place. In giving her the disease, he probably already had an antidote, because that's kind of how things work. But it's tragic, absolutely tragic. Kuma loses his consciousness in the process, gives up his life. Bonnie grows up just thinking her dad left her for no reason, never gets any of his messages, only to find out.
She just gets it, like, around this point, though. She gets it. So she learns, like, oh, my dad did love me and care for me. But it took her so long before she finally gets the messages.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts that. So Vegapunk actually does save Kuma's consciousness a little bit and programs a couple things, like to save the Sunny, and, if they meet up with the Straw Hats, to go ahead and take care of them. Kuma leaves all of his memories for his daughter.
Wait, there's one other thing. He makes it so that Bonnie can override any previous control, so she can become Kuma's actual master, for like the only one that he listens to eventually. So that was another safety feature he coded on Kuma.
Yeah, it's beautiful in a way. But so in doing so, Kuma actually sacrifices himself again to save his daughter. As PX1, he kind of regains his humanity in a way and sacrifices himself to save his daughter. But he did leave a bubble of information for Bonnie to inherit. That was basically,
that's what it was. Yeah,
all of his memories and his dreams and everything else. And it's just so bittersweet. But we finally get the backstory to Kuma that we've always wanted. We finally understand Jewelry Bonnie's motivations.
And let's talk about her fruit.
Oh, yeah. I had to reread it a couple times to understand exactly what her fruit kind of entails. I can explain it if you want me to.
No, I'll just give like the brief synopsis of she's able to temporarily change people's ages, either speed them up or make them old or make them young. So that's kind of like the nature of her fruit. But it's also kind of like, if you dig a little bit deeper, it's more like these are the different potential possibilities of this person.
Yes, especially, I think that only applies to herself right now. So Bonnie can basically age herself forward or backwards and become any possibility of herself that she believes in. So if she believes that in the future, in 100 years, she'll turn into a shark, then boom, she's a shark. If she believes in 100 years that she's going to be Gear 5 Luffy, boom, she's Gear 5 Luffy, in which we actually see. I think...
Which leaves the question for me, which is, how many fruits can actually turn into Nika?
Oh, I mean, that's just a whole nother...
That's a whole nother episode. Yeah, but like, I'm just kind of throwing out the possibility. My prediction is we're going to see at least one more fruit that can turn into Nika moving forward in the series.
I think if Bonnie awakens her fruit and can do these like future possibility transformations for everybody, we're going to see some more chakra cloaks, if you feel me.
For sure, yeah. Okay, we gotta, we're running out of time, so let's keep moving forward. Yeah, so Gear 5. So she turns Gear 5, and then, there's also these new pacifistas called Seraphim that Vegapunk created based off of the Shichibukai 8 warlords. So I guess he had their DNA, and it looks like he kind of mixed them he kind of made clones of their DNA, but like mixed in like the Lunarian genes as well, because they all have dark skin. They're all children currently, and they all are very powerful. Like they're definitely stronger than most Shichibukai, to be honest.
So the Seraphim are supposed to be replacements for the Pacifista. And the Seraphim are supposed to be so powerful that they now imbalance the power between the three systems, being the warlords, the Yonko, and the world government. So basically, the Pacifista are so powerful. Excuse me, the Seraphim are so powerful. They now tip the scales. I think it's been shown that the warlords, in order to become warlords, they have to give up DNA sample. Vegapunk went ahead and gave them artificial blood, artificial devil fruits, and gave them these Lunarian bodies. However, we see that they also do maintain some form of personality. We do see a Snake who is supposed to be
Boa.
Yeah, who is supposed to be like a child version of Boa Hancock, actually forgo her programming to protect Luffy.
She's like in love with Luffy already, and she just met him. It's so funny.
Exactly. So the the Seraphim are programmed with a logic chip, which determines the hierarchy of who they take orders from. So I believe it's like Vegapunk. Well, they don't only take orders from Vegapunk. It's like
It's also the
Gorosei,
Gorosei. Yeah.
Vegapunk, and then just random marine riffraff, I think, like admirals and then vice admirals and then riffraff, from my understanding.
Yeah, so those are really cool. And then, yeah, let's talk about the Gorosei. So the Kuma actually saved Bonnie from a Gorosei attack. So basically, we see all of the Gorosei, and they all turn into their monster forms that we kind of foreshadowed earlier in the episode. So let's just kind of give the names and descriptions of all the Gorosei. So first, we've got Saint Marcus Mars, and his department is the Department of Environment, and he can transform into an Itsumade, which is like a monstrous bird yokai that's also part snake. You want to do the next one?
Sure, we have Saint Topman Warkiri, who is the Saint of Justice. He is a gigantic, monstrous boar yokai with huge
Yeah.
razor-shaped tusks.
And then next we got Saint Ethan Baron, Ethan Baron v. Nusjuro, Saint of Finance. He turns into the Bakotsu, which is a skeletal undead horse yokai.
That is Samurai Gandhi. That's the bold one that has.
Oh yeah, and like he kind of looks like a centaur when he's in his yokai form. So his top half is still himself.
Yeah, he's got the Kotetsu. And then moving forward, we have Saint Shepherd Jupiter, who is the Elder Star of Agriculture. He turns into a giant sandworm that burrows into the earth and comes out with this huge gaping maw.
Next we have Saint J. Garcia Saturn. That's kind of like the lead one that we see the most of. And he is the saint of science and defense. He turns into a Gyuki, which is a massive ox spider yokai. And he ends up dying. And we end up getting a new saint that gets elevated.
Okay, I just want to say that we do see Jay Garcia getting his powers removed upon his failure. Eam himself actually saps his powers away from him, and we see Saturn turn into this husk, which I think confirms the long-held theory that the Elder Stars are ever living and ever present simply because they are bestowed powers by Eam, and they can be taken away at will, which we see. And these powers of Saint Saturn, we don't know if he's going to turn into the same monster. But needless to say, we get Garling Figureland, who has ascended to Elder Stars.
Yeah, so he's
Round
now
of applause.
he's now the new science and defense star. So yeah, that's all the Gorosei. So they're all very scary. None of like they can take damage, but they just heal right away. Like the best we see is they can kind of get stunned and kind of like unable to move or attack for a bit. if they get hit real hard. So that's kind of what happens at the end of this. The Straw Hats and Gear 5 Luffy and Gear 5 Bonnie kind of beat them up. Yeah, that's kind of how it ends. So
I
we
just want to.
also, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say one thing. We do see that the Gorosei themselves are summoned with demon magic on these weird arcane summoning circles with like pentacles and this weird archaic writing. So,
True, yeah.
demons confirmed in One Piece, everybody.
Yeah, they kind of get teleported with those summoning circles too. But yeah, so
But
moving forward. Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
I'm just sorry. There's one more point of note leading to the downfall of the Gorosei at Egghead Island. We do see Emmet, which is a giant, ancient iron giant that we see that has been sitting dormant on Egghead for all these years until Luffy transforms into Gear 5 and Emmet himself hears the drums of liberation and is awakened once again. And in his dying breath against the Gorosei, we see Emmet himself sacrifice himself, and in doing so, we get a flashback in which we see a shadowy Joy Boy talking to Emmet, and in doing so, placing hockey inside of Emmet to be used, quote unquote, when the time is right.
Yeah, so
Emmet
this giant blast is that stored up hockey that Joy Boy saved in Emmett.
and the Elder Stars, and I believe even him himself mentioned that this was the hockey of Joy Boy, and he looked shook. He looked a little shook.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he probably is like, this is a nightmare for Emu because this is something that he had to face in the past, a defeat, like probably not a fond memory. So yeah, I would be shook too to be and like faced off against this entity that defeated me once.
And to rub salt in the wounds, upon escaping from Egghead Island, we see the one true body of Vegapunk gets destroyed, but not without delivering possibly one of the best speeches in all of One Piece. We broadcast to the One Piece world. Vegapunk tells the populace exactly what we've wanted to know all these years. Vegapunk lets us know that the Void Century is real. The world government is hiding something. The ancient kingdom did exist. The Mother Flame was stolen and used to power an ancient weapon that has risen the seas, and then goes to tell us that actually 1,000 years ago, pre-Void Century, the seas were something like hundreds of feet lower than they are today. So at the end of this cataclysmic final battle for the fate of the world was essentially destroyed and flooded. We don't know why, but that could explain why every piece of land in the One Piece world is an island. And
Yep.
Joy Boy himself, or excuse me, Vegapunk himself also lets us know that Joy Boy was a person. He did inherit the Nika fruit, and he was the freest man of the sea, often referred to as the first pirate.
Chills, dude. That's chills. So yeah, this kind of catches us up all the way up to Elbaf. We'll go over Elbaf's history in the next episode, as well as chapter 1151. So we're gonna kind of merge that one into the Elbaf catch-up part, just because this episode has already been long enough. Trying to catch up 5 years worth of One Piece in 1 hour is kind of difficult.
It does feel good to be back. I just want to say that it feels so good to be back. Happy to be here and sharing our ideas with all of you. Please let us know if you would like to connect with us. Again, we are at the Void Century Podcast at gmail.com. Catch us anywhere you can listen to podcasts, including Spotify and iTunes. And we also have a YouTube channel. Feel free to send us an email, drop us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. And thanks for sailing with us.
Thanks, guys. Bye.